Hello, everybody. Whoa, oh, oh.
Welcome back to the Other Side Lifestyle Podcast with Jim and Aram. Today was my last day of school, and I've had a few drinks. I went to a bar with some teachers.
Did you start drinking at school?
No, I'm an adult, Aram.
That's gay.
So that's right off the gate. I'm just going to say that. So if I start falling asleep in the middle of this, if Aram starts talking for too long, then that's why. That's why. For the people that are listening each week, Aram didn't believe in me. He's like, this will be short-lived. My tracking everything and working out again. I am starting week 3. I'm on fire. Even though I had the drinks, they are tracked and there'll be nothing else. I'm already at 130 plus grams of protein for the day. I've hit all my workouts last week. I'm excited about my workouts this week. I've already hit yesterday's workout yesterday. I'm not behind. So I'm in a great place. So all of us together, if you're listening, we're going to say this out loud. We're going to say, fuck you, Aram, on 3. 1, 2, 3. Fuck you, Aram. Yeah, we all said it in the car together or during our walk. Now, we have a guest. It's a repeat guest. A lot has happened in her life since she was last here. Lauren Conlin. Do not speak yet. You're not allowed. Aram, you bought a creamy.
I love how you went from Lauren Conlin's here to I bought a creamy.
We started talking about this. I said this needs to be on the thing. So, Aram, you got a creamy.
I got a creamy.
Tell us about your experience so far. See how that's done? I didn't say anything. I didn't lead you. I just asked the question.
What I want to say about it is that it's needed in every household in the United States. Like every household in the United States needs to have one because not only is it a fun thing to do as a household together, just to have the camaraderie of like searching recipes and putting shit together.
He's doing it. Stop. Lauren, question. Do you have a creamy?
Do you have yeah.
I don't have a creamy. And literally last time me and my boyfriend were at Target, he's like, what about a creamy? And I was like, no, we don't need it. And now
Perfect.
you guys are really hyping it. Like I might.
All right, so
Lauren, back to Aram. Aram, go.
No, fuck that. Why do you think you don't need it?
No, she said now she needs it. She didn't think she did. Now that she's hearing these things, she's like, maybe I should get one.
Do you not
so
like
Aram,
do you not
sell
like
the creamy.
Do you not
also,
like ice cream?
We don't have a discount code, but you can try using the discount code Aram, A-R-A-M, and see if it works. Sell the creamy now to Lauren. Her boyfriend's already trying. She's very curious now. She's what we call creamy curious. It's like kind of like on the LGBTQ scale.
Like bi-curious, but
yes, yeah, like curious. Sober curious, bi-curious. She's creamy curious. Sell Lauren Conlin, PhD, soon to be, if not already. Are you already a PhD?
No.
No, never mind.
She's
not going to be a PhD.
She's got a bunch of degrees behind her.
She has. Well, they're fake. She has a lot of fake degrees on the wall behind her.
I just printed them out today.
Yeah, if you go on Canva, you could have a degree in anything from anywhere. Lauren's proof of that. Aram, sell her the creamy. Best episode ever. Go.
So 2 features of the creamy that you want to be able to engage with. One, obviously the calorie control concept, right? Like
yes.
we can have our cake and eat it too. The second,
you can have your ice cream and eat it too.
The second and more important thing is it'll bring the bond between your boyfriend and you way closer.
Why?
Because a relationship that's built upon creating sweet treats together is a much sweeter relationship. Now, Jimmy does this alone with his son, which is a great way to bind father and son. But Jimmy also does this by himself because he is somebody who likes to do things on his own. And that's
I'm lonely.
Right.
But I'm not. I'm not lonely. I'm alone, but I'm not lonely.
Correct.
I love my company. Yeah, I love my company.
So hopefully, Lauren, in 6 months from now, when you do buy the creamy and you start using it,
I think it's going to happen quicker if you sell it better. Go.
And your relationship with your boyfriend gets better, you can thank us and the creamy.
Yeah.
So.
Yes.
So, Ram.
Definitely right into them.
Lauren, stop talking. This is about a Ram right now. Ram.
I love how
you guys.
with way more education than both of us put together that we invited on to speak hasn't said a word yet. That's
correct. She'll have her time. Okay. We're not going to make her tell us about parties and falling over fences like last time. Aram, What have you made? Tell us the recipe. What have you tried? What have you experienced? What have you liked? What have you not liked? How can you tweak it?
We
Lauren, listen. This is a sales pitch.
tried to make a strawberry cheesecake one. That didn't work out very well.
What did you do?
Cut up strawberries, sugar-free cheesecake pudding mix.
Good. That's a good thing to add.
Fairlife, oat milk, which gave us a little bit of the creaminess that we wanted, and then I believe there was some like brownie batter or something in there as well, and it wasn't as flavorful as I thought. The best one so far has been a cookie butter one with the, what do you call it, the Biscoff butter shit. Which, by the way, if anybody's ever, I didn't know about this. I didn't know this existed. I love Biscoff. That's why I fly Delta almost exclusively, just to get Biscoff. But Biscoff butter is literally just, I think, just ground up cookies with butter in it. And it is absolutely, it's better than peanut butter by a mile. It's better than, I think, any dessert food, period, ever. And I think you can put it on almost anything and it'll be good. I put it on bread. I put it on my finger. I put it on a spoon.
Let's go.
Really, it's all you needed. It was like Fairlife, Biscoff butter, crumbled Biscoff cookies, like a cookie batter pudding mix. And that was it. And it was great. That was the best one so far. But there's still a long way to go.
Tips of the trade. If you like a very smooth, soft, like a blizzard, if you like a blizzard style shake,
okay,
ice cream, spin, light ice cream setting. Spin.
Always, right? Always, apparently.
Always light ice cream, especially if you're adding protein and stuff. Do the light ice cream. Take it out. Splash of Fairlife.
After the first spin?
Put it back in. Hit the respin button. This is where it creates the magic. Then you add the Nilla wafers or the biscotti cookies and hit the mix in, and you have a blizzard consistency with little chunks of stuff. That's the way. That is the secret. Light ice cream, splash of milk, respin, add the mix in button.
Done. Okay.
And Lauren, in case nobody's told you, it does sound like a jet is landing inside of your house when it's on. This is not a thing. Yeah, you don't whip up a creamy while the family's sleeping at 1 a.m. You don't do that. This is like you're hitting pause on whatever show you're watching, or you're cranking the volume up super high or reading the subtitles. It sounds like a jet is landing, and it's worth every decibel.
How are you, Lauren?
I have a question though.
I know you do.
I have like 15.
Shoot.
She has more than one question. This is a starter. This is a leading question to the next question. Go ahead.
Okay, so with the like preparation though, isn't it like a whole thing? Like that's been one of my like
No.
I'm not sure about it.
So this is what I'm going to tell you. Have you ever made a protein shake with a blender?
Yeah.
That's what it is.
I've been told it's 24 hours and you got
no. Okay. That's not preparation though. That's wait time. It's very different. So you're going to make your protein shake, okay? And then you pour it into the cup and you throw it in the freezer that night. The next night, that's when you eat it.
Okay.
Yeah, one time I did it with like maybe 6 to 8 hours in the freezer, and it looked like I already did the respin after the first spin, and then I did a respin because I was just used to doing that, and it came out like a very thick milkshake consistency.
Okay, so it really does need like the set time.
Yeah, if you can get enough time. The easiest thing is you eat your creamy, you make the next one. Okay. And then the next day you eat it, you make the next one.
That's the fun part though. I feel like while you're eating it or while you're like letting because I let it sit on the counter for about 20 minutes before I pop it on.
Yeah, I run it under warm water to try to melt some of the stuff that's like frozen to the outside. That helps with the spin. Yeah,
so instead of doing that, I just let it sit for 20 minutes. And during that 20 minutes as I'm concocting tomorrow's recipe. So, and the nice thing about this is, and I'm sure, Lauren, you've probably had this problem. When you go to the grocery store and you buy yourself a tub of ice cream, you're committed to that flavor now for multiple days on end until it's gone. So,
which is only 2 or 3 days for me.
Right.
Yeah,
I can't have it.
You don't really get a lot of variety, which sucks. But here, you can, like, between two people,
change it up.
I mean, you're looking at probably 200 to 400 calories per serving, and that way, so about 800 calories total. You're splitting it in half. You can make it very protein dense if you want, but
Yes.
the fun part
You
is
don't
is
have to.
you don't have to. So you do whatever the
Correct.
fuck you want with it. You can make chicken gizzard ice cream if you wanted to.
I
And literally,
personally would not suggest that, Lauren. I know you might seem interested in something like that, but I would say it's probably not worth it. I think the real question here, Lauren Conlin, that we brought you on here, do you like ice cream?
Oh, it's one of my favorite
Do
foods.
you like
So
ice cream?
yeah,
Do you like and support tracking calories and macros and eating a high protein healthy diet? Do you support that?
I do support that. I should probably support the low
It's
calorie dessert more often than I have been.
it sounds like you are a perfect. Now, we don't accept everybody into the creamy world, but you sound like a perfect candidate. You qualify as a creamy purchaser.
and the
I
nice thing is too,
know.
like if you use Chronometer, we can actually share the recipes all together in Chronometer with one another.
We can.
I don't use tracking apps, so
Do you not
You don't
track your
have
food
to.
anymore?
I don't track my food anymore, but even when I did, I never used an app. I would just write it down.
She just
Wow.
remembered everything. She
And
has
honestly,
degrees on the wall.
Wait. Just
She
because.
had no. She had a detective notepad that she would open up
I
and
literally have
write
them like
this
in my
little
closet.
detective notepad.
Wait, you literally you always did it manually? For how long?
This is
Career of tracking.
all right.
Like
So this is
years?
great. This is why we brought you on, Lauren. We want to find out about your psyche. We want to find out about everything that's wrong with you, everything that's right
Yeah.
with you,
Holy
and
shit.
what has changed with you since you've last been on. Because you've had a lot of changes, I think, mentally,
Yeah.
how you're viewing things. You've posted on social media how like there's these things I want to share, but I don't know if I want to talk about on social media. Like stuff has changed for you.
Oh, yeah, a lot. When
So
when did I come on? I feel like it was a few years ago. So,
it was early on. It
um,
was probably in the first year. We're like in year 3 now, I
September
think.
okay,
3rd of 2023.
okay. So yeah, it's been almost 2 years. Yeah, a lot has changed in those 2 years, and I am back in school, and that has been like the biggest change, honestly.
And what are you
Um,
pursuing again?
so I'll be a mental health counselor. So um, the therapy world is very confusing because there's all these different titles and people are all considered therapists. So licensed mental health professional, licensed mental health counselor, some people who are social workers or marriage family therapists, like they also are licensed and offer therapy. So it's very like confusing to people because they're like, wait, what is it? And then counselor kind of sounds like school counselor, but the official title is licensed mental health counselor.
And what would that look like if somebody was pursuing a career in that?
Yeah, so typically it would either be something like, private practice. I could work at a school, so that is like a real option. I could work at a clinic, kind of like I'm interning right now. So there's really like anywhere that therapy would be offered, individual or group or both, I would be able to do that.
Did you pursue this to help understand clients and be able to help them with that aspect, recognizing that that's a huge problem? Or do you see yourself
Yeah.
potentially doing that separately from what you're doing with coaching?
Yeah, so really what was happening was I was seeing so much of that. And I was basically just the longer I've been doing this, the more mental health and, emotions and previous traumas and all these things are like leading, to the dysfunction with food. And over time, my clientele have changed, and the types of people that I'm attracting are those types of people. They've either been competitors or athletes, and now they're trying to reintegrate into kind of a quote unquote regular life. What does that
Civilian
look like?
life.
Yeah, civilian
Like
life.
coming out of the army.
Um,
Yeah, like civilian life. Yeah, yeah.
like literally, and how do I operate? How do I eat? And or just people who have been just yo-yo dieting chronically for their whole lives, or people who have had eating disorders who are trying to figure this out. So I've been getting a lot more clients like this over the past several years, and I really just got to a space where I could bring people to this place where they were understanding of some of their issues, but then I am not, licensed or credentialed to help someone through that. And I certainly could have gone the, just online coach route, because there really is no,
Guidelines,
legalities. Yeah, there's no
regulations.
guidelines
Yeah.
there. So I could have kept doing that, but I was like, I want to do this in a legitimate way. And I also, I'm just thinking about future self. I mean, I've been coaching now for 12 years. So, I mean, at some point there's going to need to be a pivot, towards just in the space. And we've already seen so many changes just kind of in the fitness space in general. So I really wanted to be able to bring more of the mental health aspect to the fitness space, but also bring some of the fitness space to the mental health arena as well, because there is no training on that, which makes sense because this degree in and of itself is so long. It's literally like so many credits. Like my last master's was, I think, 36 credits, maybe 39. And this one is, I'll be doing 63 plus 900 unpaid hours. Like that's just part of your hours. So it's like a huge program, and there's just not enough time, to add in. And it's also not within the scope of that to add in, nutrition, training, like nothing on that. So I really am seeing kind of both sides could use more help in those directions. So at this point, I'm looking to, of course, integrate it with my current practice. So anyone that I'm working with now, they're getting the benefit of me learning these kinds of things. But then also just really thinking future, having something that is separate in that kind of a space. So I'll probably have three things. Some just kind of what I'm doing now, some combined, and then some just therapy is kind of what I'm anticipating. But
it speaks to like the scope of practice. Like you want to stay within the scope of practice, and these are things you want to talk about with the
yes,
client. Yeah, that's
absolutely.
awesome.
And I want to not always have the default of, I can't be the person to do this. And not saying that I need to fix every single person and be the only therapist in the world, but I would like to be a voice for people who want a therapist, who are in this kind of interesting space, because the fitness world is a weird space, and not a lot of people understand it until they've been in it. And I feel like I can understand both sides of it. Like, I've been in this, I get this, but also here are some things that we need to work on and work through. And like you said, be within scope to actually do that.
Yeah. I think it's awesome. I've thoroughly enjoyed over the last, I don't know, 8+ years of doing this, seeing the change from good coaches. Because you don't see it with the shitty people. They're all still saying the same shit, the same like garbage stuff. But you see these coaches where they were very focused in one area, and now they're recognizing all of this that you're talking about. Like this is actually the root of their issues with food and fitness and everything, and starting to pay attention to that aspect of it. I mean, even Aram, and we've seen it, and he's been so open with it, like how that's such a huge part. Like, I mean, Aram, you recognize your messaging has still stayed the same, consistent, but there's so much more of the mental health aspect of it in your messaging and how you talk about how you deal with clients and things like that. It's become more, and I don't know if it's just we're getting older and after enough experience, you become like that, or if it's because there's a shift in awareness of it, or people just having more issues since either COVID or whatever. She's pointing her finger like that's a big part of it.
I think that more and more people are struggling in those areas and are more open to talking about them. And I would imagine, just like you guys, like as I've gotten older, my clients have gotten older. So I'm working now with individuals who have had a lot of life and they're having a lot of things going on. They're not 21 and they're just, things are not saying that everybody who's 21's life is easy, but clients
they're not aware of it. I'd say as you get older, you start to become more aware of those things. Like you mentioned, like trauma from the past, how that affects, their food and fitness decisions. Absolutely.
And a client who's 45, they might have kids, they might have aging parents, they might be at the peak of their career, they're juggling all of these things, and they also have some food issues, and they have some trauma, and they have all these things that are bubbling up, which is very different. So I feel like that has substantially changed, at least in the people that I've been working with. So it kind of became not even something I could, like, I couldn't ignore it. Yeah. Like, I really don't get a client where I'm like, oh man, like nothing's going on.
Yeah,
like,
just hit your macros. You know, like ignoring those things is not responsible, not
Well,
helpful, not helpful.
the 45-year-old physiology is much tougher to deal with than the 25-year-old physiology. And I think that's where having an understanding of the basics of nutrition and fitness can take somebody very, very far. But the people that are in their 40s, 50s, 60s, whatever, and they're wanting to make changes to body composition, health, body fat loss, muscle gain, whatever, the principles are always going to stay the same. Like, we know that nothing has changed about nutrition and fitness in the last 100 years, and it probably won't for the next 100 years. But the environment has changed significantly. Their mindset has changed significantly. Their circumstances have changed significantly. And if we don't match those people to some degree, while also still being able to educate them on the basics of nutrition and fitness, they're going to fuck up and fail and perceive themselves as failures and say that, well, it's not going to work and what's the point and it's hopeless, as opposed to being able to say, hey, like, you're going to have a much tougher climb because this wasn't a priority for you for 20 years and you let it slip, which, let's be honest, that's what the fuck happened. I don't, I'm going to paint with a broad brush because I've seen this movie now for 15 years and it hasn't changed much at all. I'm 41. I get older and older clients constantly, and the problems are the same. I got married. I had kids. I started a career. I had another kid, and then myself got ignored for a long time. And I put on X amount of weight, and I lost X amount of muscle, which compromised my metabolism and my habits. So now I'm having to start from square one with a shittier situation. That's the hard part. That's what people, from a pedestrian standpoint, don't want to see, because calories still fucking matter. Muscle is still important. Protein is still important. Fiber is still important. None of that stuff's going to change. But how do you integrate that into a lifestyle where it's maybe third, fourth, fifth, seventh, eighth down on the list? That's the hard part. That's where I think Lauren Conlin comes in.
Lauren, in your education so far in this whatever counselor degree thing, very confused, mental health practitioner, counselor, have they talked about, have you any classes talked about physical movement as part of, helping in these areas?
So it's kind of like indirectly touched on in the same way that mental health is indirectly touched on in the fitness space, where it's like, hey, mental health matters. You should take a look at it, keep an eye on it. But it's something where it's more of like, healthy eating and, movement that feels good is going to help your mental health. But it's not this like direct, like, here are things you should be talking with clients about. And like I said, I don't even really fault the program, because it's like we already have so many classes that it would need at least a class, if not more, dedicated just to that. So it is like woven in kind of slightly, like the importance of that, but it's not this like overt topic. And counseling is different than psychology in the sense that this is all backed on psychology, but it's more the applied psych. So if I were to have done like a clinical psychology program, which I had thought about, that would be more of like all the stuff when you read like the
All the
psych
theory,
research
yeah,
and
Young, Freud.
mindset research, and this is these goal setting and like all the stuff that we read about. But with counseling, it's all of like the application of what that looks like. So it really is kind of like like learning how to be a good counselor. Like, you understand the theories, but you're really learning how to like talk with people, engage them, get things out. And that is really where like we're spending a lot of our time. So it also makes sense from that perspective that it's less about that. I wish we had more, but I also again recognize like just deeply that it is like there's already so much that we're doing that it's really hard. It's kind of like, like in med school, you don't have a bunch of nutrition classes, and it's like it makes sense because there's already so many other classes, but we would all like doctors to be educated in nutrition, right? So it's like this, do we keep people longer? Do we have more credit hours? Like, what do we do? But there is, I think, more of a general understanding, but it's still pretty general. And it would be more of that field would then refer out, like kind of like how we do now, like, hey, I think you should go speak to someone. They would say that, but in like our direction. So yeah, it is interesting though. But I have when you were speaking about the client avatar, Aram, so now I have a really busy summer where I'm doing 3 classes and I'm also doing my first internship. So I'm working 2 full days at a site on top of classes. So I was like, all right, I'm trying to obviously still work with clients and do homework and all that. So I'm like, okay, time is of the essence. But if I do not do some type of training, like this is not going to be like my best work, but if I don't do something, like I'm not going to feel like good, not even like physique aside, like feeling okay, which has meant I have to get up much earlier to train, which I had the luxury of not doing that for so many years because after school I've just worked for myself. And that is one of those great things where you have just more time, and now it's like, hey, I have to be there at 8:30. So what does that mean? Got to get at 5:15, have to have my bag packed, have to have all my food ready. I have to get to the gym. I have 45 minutes only, do 5 minutes of a walk outside, shower there, get ready at the gym, like that whole life again. And it is giving me that appreciation again because I did that, previously, of course. But now being like, wow, like I did forget how taxing this is in the sense of like every day you have to, if you're not prepared, like nothing, like if I don't have my food ready, I'm not gonna eat. If I don't have my stuff laid out, might hit snooze. So it's one of those things where it is so easy to see how clients get in that position, especially if this isn't something that they already have, like those positive wins built up. Like I know for me, if I don't train, if I don't like have, my normal meals, I'm just not going to feel great. But when you don't have all of that evidence built up, it is hard to be like, why would I prioritize this when I don't even know what the payoff is going to feel like?
Well, I also think that you're doing it for a deeper reason than aesthetics. You're doing
Mm-hmm.
it to enhance your quality of life. And I mean, this is something that we could talk about till we're blue in the face. But until somebody values or puts a standard of action onto their quality of life measures, whatever those measures might be, they're never really going to understand what that is, what that feels like, what that looks like, how to touch it, how to feel it. They can't associate to that because they've always been taught, or the pedestrian way of thinking about fitness and nutrition is that it's a determinant of fat loss or gain, and that's all it ever is. As opposed to eating well contributes to your cognitive function, it contributes to your digestive function, it contributes to your energy production, all of these things that we know are contributors to a better quality of life, which allows you to be better at everything else you do, whether it's a student, whether it's a parent, whether it's a spouse, whatever it is. Your role as a human being gets amplified because you do these things and because you take some measure of self-care. Now, two things that I think people struggle with when it comes to compliance to any type of nutritional or training protocol, and that's usually going to be stress management and emotional regulation. So, with the stuff that you're doing now in school, have you gotten any takeaways as far as practical tactics that folks can use to improve stress management and to improve
Mm-hmm.
emotional regulation?
So I know this is going to sound so basic, but it really
Oh,
all starts.
most good answers are.
Yeah.
Most good answers are basic, right? As we all know that. I don't have like a 15-step morning routine for everybody.
You
It
don't?
really is no. I mean, I have a my morning routine is very short now. It is wake up, wash my face, leave the house. Um, but it really is about getting honest with what are those things that you are either avoiding or running from, or that you're trying to cover up and you're trying to mask that are dysregulated. And the things that we're not looking at are the reasons like that we're adding things or doing things that are maybe not so great for us. So it really starts with that honest assessment of like just what is working, what is not working, why am I feeling dysregulated, why am I going from A to Z in 30 seconds. And that is the process, like in a nutshell. But how you get there is going to obviously take a lot of time to unravel. And for some people, they're very self aware and they are able to identify that. But the individual who is not super self aware, we're going to have to start really, really small with looking at some of the most basic fundamental things. Other people, they're going to come in. And what's interesting now, so I'm working at doing my internship at a rehab site that also it's mainly alcohol and drug rehab, but also eating disorders and like dual diagnoses for both of them. And there's often like similarities, but distinct differences. And there are some people who are very far away from having that grasp on like getting from A to B is really what we have to do. And like Z is so far away, like not even gonna get there. And then there's the other people who are almost like over intellectualized and like over therapized to where they feel like they have all the answers, they feel like they know everything. And we see this with our clients too. Like I've had 10 coaches, I listen to every podcast, I know how this feels, but then it's like, okay, but it's still not working because you are still saying this, right? So it doesn't matter what end of the spectrum that somebody is on, they are going to still need to get honest with themselves. And that is the hardest part. And that is what really takes time.
That's what it's interesting, because there's true self-awareness, and then there's what I've seen, because I've experienced it in myself, like this fake self-awareness, where it's like, I know that this is how I am. I know, blah, 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 blah. And it's like, I know what I'm supposed to be doing, but I'm not. I know. I'm self-aware. Like you're admitting these faults, but you're not really investigating these things that are under the layers. And that's what like people would call shadow work, like, which is what you just described. The things that we hide from, that we don't want to fully admit. So it's sometimes can be easy for somebody to be like almost fake self-aware. Like they're aware of all their errors or their faults or where they're falling short, but they're not uncovering maybe where this stuff is coming from. What really are you hiding from the public, from the people that you interact with, and really ultimately from yourself, which is just a wild road to go down.
And that's the slow part. And that's the same thing
exactly.
that is the exact same thing with nutrition and fitness clients as it is with counseling clients. Self-awareness is the first part, but it's really that honesty, and it's that willingness to say, okay, whatever, I'm going to try this, I'm going to explore this, I'm going to see how this goes, and then we're going to like observe and make adjustments and do things that are slow, and make these tiny changes and see how that goes. And that's like the not fun part. Everybody likes to sign up with a new coach, everybody likes to get a new therapist, everybody likes to share the life story. Why am I like this? And you kind of get in that first like few weeks of like excitement. And then it's like, okay, now the work has to begin because we need to face this. And it's like, oh, but it was way more fun to just talk about this instead of doing it. And something that my therapist said to me, I can't remember what it was, but she was like, you can only take people as far as you've done your own work. And I was like, well, all right, okay.
Yeah, and that's like that bypassing. Like you learned something, so therefore you know it, but you didn't really go through the process. That's like typical bypassing. Oh, I learned about this concept, so I'm going to teach people about it. You didn't really actually go through that work.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing. Like as you're saying that, it reminds me of like people need to be self-aware enough to let go of expectations. So like I'm going to do the work because it's what I'm going to get, where we all talk about, you have to ease up on the expectations, do the work for the sake of doing the work. And like what you said, wait for things to unravel and make adjustments as you go versus this is the way, which I think a lot of people get stuck on. This is the way. Okay. What's the way? What's the way?
Yeah.
The way is experimenting and being able to adjust.
You never know how you're going to respond until you're in that situation. And you can think you know how you're going to respond. And I think all of us here and everyone listening has been like, oh, no, I've done this work, I know how I'm going to respond. And then you get there and you're like, fuck, I am the same person. I'm still the same angry, insecure, yelling, whatever it is. Like I'm that same person. And you can only know that until you're challenged with it. And the same thing goes with food. I work with a lot of clients on food, food related things. And it's like, we can do a lot of stuff, at home or in smaller settings, but until we're, out at that restaurant in that normal environment that triggers you, it's going to be hard to really know how you're going to act. And that's why we sometimes just have to do it, even if it doesn't go as intended. So it's just one of those things where we have to be open to that slow growth and that slow progress. So I wish I had better tactical things, but it really is just about like the tactical things come from how someone responds to each different like output from like their outputs, or then how we would like approach that. Does that make sense?
Man.
Well, and
It's
you
the
also
wisdom. It's the wisdom of Mike Tyson. Everybody has a plan until they get punched in the face.
Yeah.
you also have to have some type of SOPs, right? Like there's got to be some type of operating procedure that people have to do whatever the work is, right? Because the work is not hard to quantify or identify when
Hmm.
it comes to nutrition and fitness. The work is you have to make time to go to
Yeah.
the gym. Then you go to the gym, then you execute in the gym, and then
Hmm.
something down the line occurs
Yeah.
and it happens.
And we don't know when, where down the line.
No.
We don't know where. We
So,
have to
well,
be willing to accept I'm not going to be shredded in 4 weeks, unless you're following a Rom's 4 weeks to the beach plan where you're staying in a state
you're
where you
just always
can
you're just
4
always
weeks
jacked
away.
and happy.
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
and, with nutrition, it's I know I have XYZ caloric budgets, and to fulfill
Hmm.
those budgets, I have to back my way into a meal prep system that works. And by staying prepared, I can fulfill my nutritional requirements, keep
Hmm.
myself full, satiated, build in some indulgences. Here's my built in plan of
Hmm.
action to adhere to nutrition. Here's my built in plan to adhere to my fitness. But the thing that keeps that whole thing together is the mental health side of things. And unfortunately, when it comes to the work of mental health, quote unquote, it's very hard to standardize the work because everybody
Yeah.
has similar but different challenges. Like the underlying challenge is compliance. The root cause of non-compliance could be a million and one different things, ranging from identity issues to self-limiting beliefs to traumas to blah blah blah. Now it's like, well, how do we apply tactics to start to get ourselves out of these places? Because we know that we have the awareness, right? Like most people
Hmm.
now, because mental health is such a hot topic, every time you get on Instagram, it's not hard to get somebody to tell you that, oh, I have this and this issue. Okay, cool. Awesome. Like we know that even with that issue, it doesn't prohibit you from being able to
And
at a baseline minimum show up for yourself to some degree. But how, like you said, the example of the restaurant I think is brilliant. We're going to get challenged with having to say no versus having to say yes. And if you're a people pleaser, you've probably been saying yes too often, and you're putting yourself into social situations that are hard for you to control. So how do we get you to say no a little bit more often without having to feel icky about
Hmm.
it? But you have to understand what that person's limiting factor is before you can even deploy tactics they're going to have any chance at working. So my question to you, Lauren, is knowing that every individual has these different
Hmm.
distinct limiting problems, what are the kind of questions you as a practitioner, as a professional, can start
Hmm.
to ask people, or what people can ask themselves to
Hmm.
identify where these linchpins are and how to start to reveal them?
So there's like two parts to this. So one, every therapist is going to have a different kind of framework or different theory that they operate off of. So some people are very, manualized, like the traditional CBT therapy, which CBT is just a whole huge branch of a bunch of different things. But CBT was born out of researchers. They
tell
made it. So
everybody what
like
CBT is so they can
cognitive behavioral
be.
therapy. So there's cognitive theory, there's behavioral theory, and there's all these different things. So you've heard of probably DBT, dialectical behavioral therapy, ACT, acceptance and commitment therapy. So there's all these like sub branches, but then there's also just like CBT, just together. And a lot of people gravitate towards that because it is like manualized, where I don't have
And give
access
an
to a manual.
example of like where you're using CBT with somebody. What kind of questions are they asking to be able
Yeah,
to
so
change
let's
behavior?
let's say like cognitive distortions is like a big one. So there's going to be like a list of 11 cognitive distortions. I can't even remember them all off the top of my head. But let's say catastrophizing is one of them. And let's say you notice that a client is sharing a story, and every time they share something that's kind of emotionally charged, they're always just like, just,
Worst
just,
case scenario.
yeah,
Yeah.
just. And then you're like, all right, I'm sensing some like all or nothing thinking. I'm sensing some catastrophizing. And then you would start to like dig into that. Is that just this situation specific? Is this throughout all of their situations? And then these manuals, quote unquote, you work through, you have different worksheets, you have different things that are a lot more standardized. That's not really how my brain operates. So I don't foresee myself using something like that personally, just because I'm a little bit, as you guys can tell, I'm not like, this is the answer, this is for me. I like some of the techniques from there. But then there's other ones that are more like what would be called like person centered. And that came from Rogers, and Carl Rogers is really big in the space. And if you ever watch like a tape with him, it's, I would never be able to be that far in the other direction. It is literally so just like so empathetic listening, so just like letting the person go, and they
Has
just
she
kind of,
broken up for you?
you know, oh, did I break up? Can you guys hear me?
It's breaking up. It's breaking up for you, Aram?
Yeah, I lost. That you had a great line of thought going, Lauren, and we lost like the last
All right, you're
minute.
back.
Where do you
Now
know
it's a
where
little good.
do you know where I stopped? Oh no.
No, it was the
It could be a headphone issue. It could be the fact that she's got the headphones in and it's creating an echo now.
Oh,
I don't hear an echo. We'll
I
find
do.
out later.
I feel
I'm
like they
not
usually
editing
help,
this.
which
I hope it might have all recorded, and then people are like, "We heard it, no problem."
we heard
But
it.
you're talking about the CBT and the CT.
Oh, it stopped like all the way back there.
It
Okay.
started to,
Well,
and then it
anyways,
kept going. So that's when I said something.
okay. Well,
Just say
in any
everything from the
case,
beginning, from 40 minutes
okay.
ago.
Okay, 40, yeah,
How do you feel
restart
about
it.
creamy ice cream makers?
Yeah, how do I feel about a creamy? I'm highly encouraged. You guys have really sold me on this.
Good.
But so anyway, so with CBT and all the different variations, they are more manualized. Not something that I'm necessarily super drawn to. But then there's other ones that are just too like empathetic listening. That like
Yeah.
Carl Rogers, person-centered therapy, all of that. I wouldn't necessarily go in that direction either. I'm more of a like, let's ask some questions, sit back, let someone go, and then, I kind of move it's really more of like an intuitive feel of like, where do we need to go? So to your question, Aram, the first part of that was there are certain therapists who are going to lean in one direction or another, where like you sign up and you're like, I know what type of therapy this person provides. I know what I'm getting myself into. We're going to do like homework every week. We're going to have worksheets. We're going to have like, and there's certain people who like that is going to be like their jam. And then there's other people who have just kind of more like, traditional talk therapy, and they work in different, the therapists will work in different techniques kind of as needed. So at this point, I'm still new in this. I'm only like not even a year in, so I haven't decided a theory. I haven't exactly decided how I'm going to do things. So I'm leaning just really on my intuition at this point. So when I'm sitting with someone, what I'm doing is we're doing the first assessment, and there's a bunch of questions that like I'm at an agency, so you have to ask them. But in there, I'm kind of working in these like active listening skills, kind of leaning into different things. So really, the first place is like, what brought you to therapy? Like, it's a lot of these open-ended questions of like, what brought you here? What are some of the issues that you're facing? What are some of your barriers? Tell me some of your strengths. And then a lot of times it really is just like these follow-up questions. So let's say someone says a word, um, you know, like a phrase that would be that could be like open-ended. That's when you would be like, you'd kind of follow up like, well, what does that mean to you? And like people always think like that's funny from like a therapist, like, oh, of course they want to lean into like, tell me more. But it really is important, because you could say I'm angry, and Jimmy could say I'm angry, and I could say I'm angry, and those all mean very different things with how we react. You're angry could just be like, yeah, I'm punching holes in the wall, and my angry could be, yeah, I got really mad and I stormed out of the room, and I was fine 5 minutes later. So a lot of initial therapy is really like asking these questions, clarifying, and really getting a sense of the direction of like, what does someone actually need? And then from all of the active listening, you're able to see what we would call incongruences. So we see this all the time with our clients. They say one thing, but they do another. And it's like, okay, I'm starting to notice these incongruencies, that you feel this way or you see other people this way, but you're literally doing this. So that's where, as a therapist, you have to use some kind of confrontation to call them out and say, this is really what I'm seeing. And then you see where they respond, because someone could be like, oh my God, I can't believe you said that to me. No way, that's me. Other people are like, oh, you're right, you called me out. That is me. So kind of hard to answer the question at this stage for me, because I'm really using just open questions, active listening, a lot of reflections, and kind of what I would be expected to do at this point, like in my career. Will I do more like specialized training? I'm sure. But at this stage, it really is what they would call the basic skills. And as cheesy as I was like that, no way, there needs to be kind of just like our clients, like, no, there's a better way, there's a more fancy way, there's a this. And I find myself in these sessions at the, like, where I'm entering, and I'm like, no, I am just using these basic, like, oh my gosh, like, it is really funny that, like, that is actually what is extracting the most information. Because the way I conceptualize it is, I'm extracting more information to then feed it back to them to say, this is kind of what I'm seeing. Is this how you're interpreting this? And then my interpretation either completely matches with them or it doesn't match. And then there's either a mismatch of what they're, like, how they're feeling about it, how they're expressing it, or how I'm understanding it. And then we kind of have this dance. And really it's pointing out those incongruencies and then working on whatever they're coming in to work on.
Yeah.
And this is, well, hearing you say all that, we just revealed two major problems in the basic coaching model that we see online. There's going to be two parts to it. There's going to be the client willingness to share vulnerably, openly, and honestly. Obviously, be able to take the time to have those conversations. But there also has to be the responsibility of the coach to allow for that time and to present themselves in a way that they're even receptive to having that line of communication and opening up that line of communication. So it has to take both parties to be in lockstep to identify that this has to be a very, very important part of this process, aside from macros, calories, sets, and reps, to get you to the place that you want to go. Because if we just keep hammering the technical side of this process, we're never going to reveal the behavioral side of this process, which is the underlying problem to compliance. So it's interesting to see you talk about all this stuff, because I think, 10 years ago, I would have been on the, well, just work harder train. Now I'm on the, I know why I know it's not a hard work problem. I know that you can exhibit hard work and prioritization in other areas of your life, but for some reason, you're not exhibiting those same skill sets in this arena. Why? And that's the general problem that we see with clientele.
Absolutely. And it goes back to the initial kind of point, is that this takes time. And even with nutrition clients who are checking in every week, like, that's still a time, like, there's still a time commitment. Nothing is going to be revealed. Things will be revealed, but the whole problem is not going to be revealed. And even if you have the most willing, open, vulnerable client, whether they're a therapy client or they're a nutrition and training client, does not matter. Time is still an aspect. And the more complicated the problems are, the longer this is going to take. And really, I feel like the fundamental issue with the fitness and wellness space, nutrition, all of that, and even the counseling space, is that people are looking for that quicker, like, change, that quicker fix. We know the quick fix mentality is never going anywhere with people. That is literally ingrained in us as human beings. But it's how can we override this to the best of our ability so we can achieve these goals? Or here's the other thing, you don't have to. So no one is forcing you to do these things. And I think that if everybody were also just more honest and said, if this isn't important to you, then just do whatever you'd like to do then. Like, I've gotten to the space now where I'm way more just, like, blunt about things.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, listen, like, there's two choices. This is the first choice. We can go down this path, or this is the other option, and you are free to make this alternative. It doesn't have any bearing on my life. I think, for all intents and purposes, you would be better served to be on this path. But if you would like to be over here, that is your decision. I'm not going to force you or pretend like I can force you, because ultimately what it is it's a desire of the coach, counselor, trainer, whatever it is, to want to make that change for someone. But it doesn't matter how much I want to will that for you. You have to want to make that change. So what can I do? I can help create an environment that you feel comfortable sharing those things, feeling vulnerable, taking those small risks and challenges. And on the coaching end, that really comes from listening. Literally, listening is like the most important skill as a coach that everybody needs to master. And as someone who is talkative as shit, that has been one of the hardest things for me to learn as just a human being in general. But learning to listen has served me so well in life.
And you're an educator ultimately. So it's like you just want to share your knowledge and listen, I'm telling you, this is blah, blah, blah. So
Oh
I
my God.
totally get that because
I
you're an educator, you speak and all that. And you just be like, I know the answer to your problem. I want to tell you what it is, but they have to come to that on their own.
And that's the hard part about therapy. So it's funny, like in the coaching space, I feel like I take on more of that kind of counselor role to like, let's bring someone there. But in the counseling role, because I'm still new to this, I find myself wanting to lean on the coach role. And like the other week, I had a session with someone, and oh my God, like my coach hat was just like, it was so close. And I was like, I like would put it, no, I wanted to put it on so bad because it was just like right there. And if this was a coaching client, this could have been handled in 20 minutes. But because it's not a coaching client, this might take 3 sessions to come to any kind of conclusion. And I really had to fight myself to try to do that. And that doesn't mean I can't be a direct therapist, because I most likely will be a more direct therapist, but there still has to be that line of like, doesn't matter how direct you are, someone still has to come to that conclusion. But
Yeah,
it is
they have to come to it on their own.
so hard.
Yeah,
And that's the skill of therapy, or really any communication, is having someone, coaches can use this too, helping someone reach that on their own.
Yeah, like what you said, taking small risks. I mean, that's what I see is the problem a lot of times with talk therapy is they're just talking about things and you get things off your chest and you feel good, you feel seen, you feel heard, but then there's not the risks in real life afterwards. And that's the work. When you hear people talk about the work, great, you figured out your problem.
Yeah.
Now you can either just be like, oh, yep, this is my problem, and then keep complaining about it, or take small risks, which means doing things you don't want to do so that you can change the way your brain works. And that's the work. Like, I don't want to go for this walk right now. No. I just would rather eat this. And what happens if you start hey, this is how you envision yourself living. So now you want to be in alignment with that. So you have to start taking the actions of the person that does those things before you really truly believe it or see it, because then that's how you start to retrain your brain. And it's the action parts that can sometimes be missed with talk therapy.
Oh, absolutely. And I think, I can't remember what point it was, but I wanted to make that point. So you were reading my mind. In the coaching space, it sometimes is so
All
directive,
yeah,
where everybody is just like, do this, because I said so. And the space has gotten so much better, but it still is not just on the coaches. The clients are expecting that. Just tell me what to do. I want to be told what to do. I don't want to think about this. Our clients are coming to us because they got a million and one things that they're doing. They want help streamlining that. So I'm not saying that we can't be direct with people, but sometimes the coaching space is too much like that. And then the therapy space sometimes can be too much, just talking, just venting, not doing like the work. And that's because a lot of people don't want to confront other individuals. And part of therapy is using confrontation. Hey, I'm seeing this, you're saying this, and you're doing this. And I had to use this the other day with someone. I was like, you're really just like justifying your behaviors. Like, do you hear this? And they were like, yeah, when you say it like that, I was like, you're absolutely justifying this. And this is, and I gave like a whole like assignment, like that's the work. How are you justifying this? Boom, boom, boom. Work on this week. Next week, we'll go over this together. That's not fun assignment. It's not fun to want to do that. But unless you actually look at this, it's just all going to be talk. And that's where people drop out of therapy and they say it doesn't work. It's because they're not actually challenging themselves. It's just like someone who doesn't check in and tracks their food 3 days a week. Well, they're not going to see any progress either. So
yeah, it's like that issue. Like, they need to discover their own values in it. Like, one of the things that has crossed my mind over the last couple of years are people like a Garrett White and Andy Elliott. These people who are like, if you want to be successful, these are the 4 pillars to success. And it's like them sharing their values and expecting other people to fall in line with that. And then there's a resistance when they try to follow those things. Like, if you have a coach that's just telling you, do this, do this, do this, do this, but there's something that's missing. It's not connecting because it's not totally in line with who they are. So then there's a resistance. Then you start to pull back, and you're not reaching out to the coach, and you're missing check-ins and all that kind of stuff. So it is that blend of figuring out your values, figuring out who you are, what you're going to do, and then taking those uncomfortable actions to actually be in alignment with who you are. And those aren't easy questions for people to answer or discover, just your values. Most people don't really know. They just say generic family, health. They just say these generic things because they feel like they have to, but Yeah. Yeah. No, I'm with you.
Yeah, values and the emotional dysregulation piece. I know we touched on that in the beginning, and that is the driver of so much just distress. And it's people are using different ways to cover that up. And for some people, it's drugs, alcohol,
Perfect
self-injurious
body.
behavior, perfect body, working. Like there's certain cover-ups, we'll call them, that are socially acceptable, and honestly put people ahead, right? Like
Yeah.
if you're addicted to working, like there are things in your life that are going to fall apart, but maybe not everything. So but at some point you're going to get there and be like, well, this was really all just to cover up these really big feels that I have. But at some point, that's going to crack and everything's going to fall apart. And you're going to realize that you are no different than someone else who is having these issues, but they chose some other way to manage that. So at the core, most people have all the same kind of problems. It's just what are they using to as like their outlet? How are they covering that up? And what support system and resources do they have to work through that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm the older I get, the more I fall into the camp that we're all very much different. We're all very much the same, and none of us are these like unique broken snowflakes that we think we are. Because you can look to your left or to your right and spot the same issue, exactly the
Mm-hmm.
same issue with somebody else that presents itself slightly differently. Like you said, I
Mm-hmm.
might have a different coping mechanisms for stress than you do, and you might have a different coping mechanisms for stress than Jimmy does. But the underlying stressor and what freaks us out or what puts us into a tailspin might differ as well. But the
Mm-hmm.
problem is still dysregulation of emotions, improper coping mechanisms to stress, and having a level of integrity and values to anchor all of these behaviors into so that they
Mm-hmm.
don't lose some level of consistency. But I think at the end of the day, like as a coach, my responsibility to my clients is not just to incessantly listen to them all the time, but to say at some point, we've talked about this at nauseum now for 3 check-ins in a row, and you understand what's expected of you. Yes, yes. Okay, cool. Are you unwilling to do that thing? Or if you are unwilling to do that thing, are you okay with the consequences that come with inaction? And if you are, I can totally support that. I, as a coach, am not here to stretch you beyond your comfort level. My job is to meet you where you're at, dangle a carrot in front of you for as long as you're willing to chase it, and then be able to support you along the way through the different seasons of your life. And there's going to be times where this just isn't that fucking important to you. And that's okay. There's been times in my life where it's not important to me. And I take my fucking foot off the
Thursdays,
gas.
for example.
And there's nothing wrong because if you can own that behavior, that to me shows a level of emotional intelligence that you didn't exhibit before. If you can tell me, hey, I'm going to take my foot off of the gas on the weekends and I don't care what happens on Monday, that's growth to me mentally.
And it's more peace. Like the
It's a ton of peace.
frustrating, hamster wheel that people put themselves in to just be able to accept the outcome of your actions. And yeah, I think it's so easy to blame everybody else. I mean, it's the same thing you see in relationships. Like why can't I just find a masculine man? It's like, maybe because you're not in your feminine. Like, it's like these things, like you're not willing to look at yourself to see what you're attracting or not
Mm-hmm.
attracting or repelling and this and that. It's those same things. None of my friends want to exercise. Well, have you asked any of them to go for a walk? Have you considered joining a community-based gym and participating in that? Or are you just blaming everybody else? Why do you want everybody else to initiate it, but you won't initiate it? It's like,
Mm-hmm.
it's that looking in, and that's hard.
It is very hard, and it just takes time. I'm always going to go back to that. Like there is
Yeah.
no shortcut to these kinds of things, and I I used to feel like, oh, I wish there was a shortcut, but I actually don't because like then it's really like as we know, like the hardest times that we've gone through things are like the biggest realizations or changes that we've made. Everybody can look back and be like, wow, that was because I was tested. That was because I tried all these different things. That was because you know what, this was actually quite shit, but I still got through it. Like there's never like a time where that part of the process isn't important. But
Yeah.
it is accepting that yeah, this isn't going to happen, overnight, especially when we are working with people who've had, these similar types of issues for multiple years, if not decades of their life. Like it is incomprehensible to think that if you have done something for 10, 15, 20 years, that you are going to fix that or change that in 3 months. It is like the math is not mathing.
Ain't mathing.
It's not.
Sounds like girl math to me, Lauren. Can you
Yeah,
explain girl math?
Absolutely some girl
I
math.
saved $150 buying this purse. How much did you spend to save $150? $350, but I saved.
See, I get that. That's different.
Don't get so defensive, Lauren. Are you not willing to look at yourself in the mirror about how much money you've saved over the years?
That was a little different. I'm going to reserve the right to say that an on-sale purse is a great investment.
Great investment.
Great investment.
I spent this much money to hold my money. I have less money now to hold because I bought this thing to hold my money. I like it.
You know, everybody has their flaws, okay, guys?
It's not a flaw unless it's a problem. If you're in massive debt, you keep buying purses, then it's a flaw.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's just a choice. Like
and all those things.
You indulge on the weekend, there's a consequence. It's
everybody has their choices, and I do agree that I've gotten to this space now where I'm more just not even, I don't know if accepting is the right word, but it's more, there's always this desire, especially for a lot of coaches and trainers, like you want to help someone make a change. And in my coaching mentorship, I work with so many people who are like, I just want, like, I can't stop thinking about this problem, or I really want them to do that. And it's like, at the end of the day, like you can offer the support, you can offer the tools, strategies, the suggestions, the network, whatever it is, but they still have to want to make this change as well. And that's not to give like an easy pass, but it's to say like, this is a joint relationship. This is not like the coach is driving the change for someone. Like you are a part of the change. You're not the change.
Yeah. Yeah. When you said that earlier, it's like, I can't make you do this stuff. Would you say that that's something that's changed for you over the years? Like did you feel a lot more responsibility for the client than you do now? Not saying I'm stepping back, but it's like, you don't carry the weight of them not following through as much as you did before because you acknowledge that and accept it.
I think so. I think that's a really good way of putting it.
She's broken up again. Is that for you too, Aram?
Oh, damn it. What? I don't know why. I don't understand.
God. I just don't know if it's being recorded or not. Like it could be recorded and like your quality's great on the recording and we don't even know.
I know. And everybody's like, what are they pausing for?
You sound... I know. We don't even know if we're pausing or not. People could be listening. It was clear for them the whole time. We'll find out later, I guess. Because I'll just hit upload.
You're like, I don't care.
So
what about now? But,
is that something that's changed for you though?
Yes, definitely.
Sounds a little better now.
I would say that. Okay, good. So everybody here, we're back. I guess, yeah, I feel less
You're hearing
responsibility, less responsibility for the change, but just as much like, you know, drive and passion and dedication for the client to make that change. But I feel like I'm in a almost better space having let that go, because I don't even know how to really describe it.
That's the point. Even if clients, there's a freedom to that. You're letting go and accepting like the reality of a situation. I think as clients, if they could just let go and accept the reality of an outcome of their action versus the expectation of the action, or expectation of the outcome. Like when you take that pressure off yourself, you're still showing up for your client the same way, but there's a freedom and a peace that comes with, okay, it's not on me if they follow through or not. And if everybody in everyday life could have that same approach to what they're doing, like, hey, I showed up for myself and this was the consequence. This was great. I didn't show up and this was the consequence. And this is what Aram was saying earlier, like just accepting the consequence of whatever your action was, whether it's like you could have a shitty weekend, the scale's down. I mean, how many times like are you dieting and then you have that indulgent night and the next day you're looking shredded because you like carb loaded up and everything like that. The scale might even be down. You're like, how does this happen? And the same happens in reverse, but it is a matter of acceptance of the outcome, not acceptance of like what I think you were trying to say. Like, I'm not accepting less than, because
Mhm.
we're talking about the outcome, not the action. You're not accepting less than in terms of what you're expecting from an action, but I'm just taking away the expectation. I'm accepting whatever the outcome or consequence is,
Mhm.
and rolling with the punches a little bit.
Yeah, I feel like that's one of the most powerful things that we can harness in general. And I feel like it's something that I always really struggled with in life, especially like early on, but really most of my life. And I I know this is going to sound like a really like maybe silly thing, but one of the best ways that I learned to let go of like just expectations of things was traveling more, because I feel like
Mm.
when you are traveling, there are so many things that are out of your control. And I don't know, I didn't really intentionally set out in that way, that I was like, I'm going to travel more to learn to let go. It was a byproduct of me doing that and recognizing, like, yeah, the things that used to bother me that would have tore me up, I'm just like, okay, and I just keep it moving. And I've had enough of those experiences now that, like, in my regular life, I'll be like, okay, like, this is the similar thing. Now, I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I am, you know, never get stressed out, never feel a certain way. Like, absolutely not. This semester has really tested me. I'm not gonna lie. I have been like, the past, month has been really tough. But that's also when I've been able to reflect on that and go, okay, this is a test. Like, this is what you have done all of this supposed work for. Now see if it actually pans out. See if it's done anything. Because now I am being challenged in that way.
What's funny is that
Did it?
every single person listening and all of us, we all experienced the same things prior to traveling, but like it was in your face with traveling. But we all, through career, through raising
Oh
kids,
yeah,
through relationships, we've all dealt with the same exact thing, but we're just like in denial about it. For you, it took like
yeah.
traveling for you to be like, yeah, just accept that everything doesn't go exactly as planned.
I know, and it sounds so silly. Like, it's like when you say it out loud and when you reflect back on it, you're like, really? Like, that was it? Um, but that was a big driver for me, and then that was a catalyst for other stuff. And really, just it was really
Hilarious.
a catalyst for me being able to sit alone, because I was never able to do that early on in my life. Just to really just be alone, sit alone, have my thoughts, be okay with whatever came up. Um, and that took a lot for me to get there, but that's where I started to see even more growth. So another not sexy hot tip would be just be by yourself and actually like sit with your thoughts. And this doesn't mean like have to go on an emo retreat and not speak for 3 days, but literally there are times when, unless you actually carve out time to be silent or be alone, you could go all day with inputs, like nonstop inputs. And this, even like, you could live alone and always have inputs. So
Especially
this is
now
not
with
just,
social media and stuff, there's always
yeah,
a distraction. Yeah.
social media, uh, you know, YouTube, TV, podcasts, music. Like, there is constantly stimulation, and if you do not want to sit with yourself and your thoughts, like, I think I saw somewhere, like there's people who don't ever eat without watching something. It's just crazy to me. Like, you have to watch something when you eat, and I'm not saying I never do that,
Yeah.
but the act of always having to do that, and like just the absolute erasure of mindfulness is really really scary. So not hot sexy tip, but sit alone for 5 to 10 minutes a day with no input, no sound, and just see what comes up. And what is so interesting is, if you do that for 2 weeks, you'll have a lot of thoughts, but you'll probably have like two or three that are like recurring and just keep popping back in. That's the work. That's your first task. If you want to figure out, what do I need to do, the things that pop up recurrently over those 2 weeks, that's where you start, because those are the biggest pressing issues.
Yeah. Most people, the first time they do it, like, this is a waste of time. Turn the TV on. It's
Yeah.
like, oh, you didn't get an instant result the first time you ate without TV on?
Yeah.
This is crazy.
Oh my God, the first time you meditated, you were not a Buddhist monk who was like living in the mountains
Yeah.
and like no, and listen, I say that like as the asshole who literally could never do it. And the first book I ever read on meditation was Meditation for Fidgety Skeptics. And I didn't finish it because I didn't like what it said. So like I literally was the poster child for this. And I really feel like if I can do it, anyone can meditate.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, every
And
topic that came
meditate.
up.
Yeah.
What do you mean meditate and quote? What?
Like I think again, people have this perception, like drop these expectations of what that looks like. Meditating can literally be sitting in silence for 2 minutes. Like it doesn't have to be this big practice. You don't have to have a fancy cushion. You don't have to have a room. Like you can, but you literally just need to sit with yourself for a couple of minutes. That's what meditation is. It's not going to be clearing out every thought you've ever had. It's going to be.
You're not going to find God the first 2 minute session.
No. But that's okay.
Your body's not going to start kicking out DMT the first time you meditate.
Damn it.
Yeah. How come I didn't meet the aliens? I sat in silence for 2.5 minutes.
Yeah,
what's happening? How come all my problems weren't solved? Yeah. But like literally every topic that came up, whether it's fitness, meditation, therapy, every single topic that was brought up was exactly that. It's not going to be right away. It is going to take time. Do it until you see the result. Sit in silence for a couple of minutes. Sit in silence during your meals until you start to see the result of it. Work out until you start to see the result. Pay attention to your food until you start to see the result, and pay attention to all the benefits that come out. Every topic, it's the same thing.
Yeah. I wish I had cooler things to share, but
she's broken up again.
I said I wish I had like cooler things to share, but like
you have lots of cool things. It's just you're digital in moments for us.
This is annoying. I'm sorry, guys. Sorry for everybody listening. I don't know why. I don't have.
We can't hear you, Lauren. The people might be able to hear you. We can't hear you. Here's a question for you, Lauren. Why does the internet suck in Tampa? She's gone.
Yeah, I think we had internet problems.
We're having internet problems. We'll give her a minute to pop back on. I have a feeling like a lot of the stuff was probably saved and downloaded. It was saying she was 99% uploaded the whole time. Do we give her a minute to come back on, or do we just close out? And I
mean, I have shit to do. She just texted us.
I do have one question. It literally just kicked me off. Yeah, Ram, I do have one question for you, and then we can wrap it up. Are you frozen?
No, I'm waiting.
Oh, you just stood there.
I'm waiting for your one question.
Oh, Lauren's back on.
What?
No.
Lauren, listen, here's the deal. Your Tampa internet sucks. I was about to ask Aram a question really quick. So I'm going to ask Aram a question. And then I have one more question for you. Aram, bye.